Have you? There we go. All right. It's wow, April Fool's Day. Welcome everyone to our North Whatcom and District 4 Regional Fire Authority Planning Committee meeting number 11. We will start with a roll call here. I'm Bruce Ansell.
Eric Andrews, District 4.
Scott Fisher, District 21.
John Crawford.
Mark Land, District 4.
Rich Bossman, District 21, alternate.
Jason Vanderveen, Fire Chief.
I'm Karen Reed. I'm an independent consultant that is facilitating this process. Go ahead, Chris, and then Heather.
Chris Parks, District Administrator, District 4.
Heather.
Heather Logan, Communications Consultant.
Thank you. Matt.
Matt Paxton. I'm here for Richard Davis today, attorney for District 21.
Okay, Commissioner Hanson, you are.
I am here.
All right. Then maybe Scott and Kenneth and Sean can introduce themselves.
Scott Brown, North Whatcom chairperson.
Okay, well, we'll skip over Kenneth and Sean. Bill Cushman is on the line in case there are questions that come up later in the agenda, and Chris Fawcett with Lund Fawcett, who has been engaged to help oversee the public outreach effort, should we get that far, is also on the line today just to say hello.
And Joe Quinn is here as well. We
Right.
have,
Sorry, yes.
Did I miss your introduction? Sorry.
Go ahead, Joe. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, Joe Quinn, attorney for District 4.
thank you. Okay, I think we're good to go there. So our agenda today is ambitious. We may not get through it all, but the idea, since we are close to being out of runway, I think we sort of really need to have the four corners of a deal in place next week if we're going to issue notice to the public to get together and share with them the outline of the RFA plan in the later part of April. And so I've tried to put a lot of the issues on that we know are ahead of us. And I think there was some discussion other than the ones that we've been talking about for about the last week that show up on agenda item 4. The other issues may or may not take us a long time, and want to just sort of flag if there are big issues with any of those if we can today, to get a sense of whether, even if we get through the hurdles at agenda 4, are there other big hurdles that we need to be prepared for. So that's sort of my goal, is to identify, get over as many bumps in the road as we can today, or not, and just be clear about what's ahead of us. So I guess that's my proposed agenda. Is there anyone have questions or want to make any changes on this agenda? Okay.
Not here.
Okay.
None here.
Okie doke. Well, let's go on. I don't know if we want to do a quick round of updates here. Are there updates from commissioners?
None here. We had a special meeting this morning, and here we are.
Okay. Anything from District 4?
At this time.
Thank you.
Dave Hanson, did you want me to proceed?
Yes. At whatever, at the point that they're ready for that, yes. If that's where we're at.
Dave has asked me to present this morning the concerns of the board about that one issue. So when that comes up on the agenda, I'd like to speak. And that issue is basically the governance provision in the plan.
Got it. Okay. Website updates. Have we been getting any emails that we should be sharing with the board? Jason?
Not here at District 21. We have not, no.
Okay.
I have not received any new. I've only had one.
Thank you. Then election consultant, we just at least wanted you to have Chris have a chance to say hello to you. And Jason, I don't know if you want to say anything.
Sure. Yeah, everybody sees a new face here, Chris Fawcett. She's from Lund Fawcett in in Seattle, and she does political outreach and messaging, and is going to help us refine our message should we go to the voters, and has the ability, both in-house and close relationships, to build, good, concise flyers that get our message across, and has had success in other RFAs or in most recently the Graham, what do you call it?
Benefit charge.
Benefit charge, yes. And I was struck immediately at our first meeting. She immediately brought up several things that she sees as positives in our community that could help us craft this message. So I'd like to welcome her aboard, and I think she'll be a great addition to the team.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here. It's nice to see Joe, who was also part of that Graham effort. I would just say one thing is our firm we work with the jurisdictions on these types of measures. So we don't do the political campaign pieces. We work with the jurisdictions to make sure they're doing what they can appropriately do to educate about the measure. And we're really looking forward. I hope this can move forward. We'd love to support you.
Thank you, Chris. Any other updates, anyone? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So agenda item 4, this is the 2 issues that were placed on the table and originally on March 23rd. We discussed them at the meeting on March 25. And in your packets at page 3, there's a write-up that I did, which was sort of captured where I think District 4 was what they were, what you all were proposing with respect to the HR director and finance director issues, and then with respect to the governance issues. But I do not know if that is accurate. So those are the 2 issues I know we need to try to figure out what's going on there and where are the parties. So for starters, to try to resolve the stuff that was put on the table around the 23rd. And Joe, you said you would be speaking to the governance one. Is someone else going to be speaking to the where y'all are on those personnel issues?
I might mention that, Karen, but it's really not an issue. I might mention that at some point in the remarks, but the issue that we want to speak to is the governance question. And I can delve into that now if you want me to.
If you could hold, I'd like to figure out if we do have the personnel issue to deal with or not. Is District 4 withdrawing this text that's on page 3 of our packets, or is this your proposal?
No, that's withdrawn. I think Dave clarified that or tried to clarify that the last time, that's withdrawn. The basic stance of the board on personnel matters is that the chief decides pursuant to the rules and policies of the RFA board. And he will implement those policies by hiring and doing the usual things to fill positions. So the board does not want to micromanage or interfere with personnel decisions. Okay.
Got it. So that issue, I'm just going to strike through that. We do not need to worry about that one going forward. Thank you. Okay, so governance issues. When we last left our heroes, the idea was that to change the initial transition board from the 8 all commissioners participating to a 3 and 3. And then I believe Mr. Ansel, on behalf of, he had some discussions about a potential compromise with Dave offline. And I guess now would be the time to turn things over to Joe. If I've got that wrong, let me know. But I think now, Joe, let us know where District 4 is on this question of governance, please.
Okay. I've been asked to present the concerns of the board on this governance issue. But really, if anybody on District 4 in particular disagrees or thinks that I'm mischaracterizing any individual board member's stance or their thinking on this, just stop me right then and there, and we'll discuss that. Otherwise, I'll proceed. And if a District 21 board member has a question about what I'm saying, if I'm not being clear or you need clarification, also stop me in the middle of it. I'm pretty well prepared to discuss the issue as free-flowing as you'd like. But the concerns that they have basically maybe we'll start with the context of the plan itself, because Karen sent me the plan some time ago, and I've already indicated to Karen that as a lawyer who looks at these plans and writes these plans for RFAs, I'm comfortable with it. There's nothing in that plan that really we need to discuss, because it's fine. It's perfect. And it's section 5 on governance that we're talking about only in this context today. And so what I'm going to talk about really doesn't necessitate any change in the plan. And in fact, that governance section has a subsection 4 called governing rules. The RFA governing board, and I quote, shall develop and adopt bylaws, governance policies and rules for the RFA governing board to conduct business in accordance with the statute. And everything that I'm going to say is consistent with that approach. It might impact some bylaws or some procedural rules at some point, but it doesn't affect the plan. So I think that's a good thing, given what Karen just said about the running out of runway here. The time is of the essence. And if we don't need to change the plan, I think that helps. Anyway, there's one issue in the governance area, I guess you could say, that's of concern. And it's not with the 5 and the 3. That's in the plan, and that's fine. It's with how the rules will work, how the voting procedures might work. And I think there could be a bylaw or a rule that affects this at some point. What we're going for, what the board wants from District 4 is a voting equality sort of principle. 3 votes for each of the former District 21 board and the former District 4 board after the effective date is what they're after. 3 from each group. And it's only for a period of time. The request here, keep in mind that it sunsets. And in fact, it could sunset even sooner under your plan draft. The vacancies may occur. And you've got it slated to begin in January of 2024, where you have the attrition process and the staggering board creation. But it could happen sooner, actually, if vacancies occur under that plan. So this, what I'm proposing, and basically parroting what board members have told me, is that they'd like to see equality, and how you would get to equality would be in the rules. It really, when you think about it, there's no little or no difficulty in running a board if everybody can agree. And most cases, they're unanimous. When you watch fire district board meetings and RFA board meetings, they're often, there's not a lot of controversy. And there aren't a lot of tie votes either. In any case, it sunsets after a period of time. And it can be amended at any time. That's another interesting thing I noticed about the last clause in your section 5. It says the governance section of this plan may be amended by a majority vote of the RFA governance board. So if at any time we don't need this kind of concern anymore, and we don't need to have the 3 and 3 voting rule, it could be dropped. Everything is done by consensus anyway. And I think you're going to get a lot more consensus than we seem to be suggesting in the last week. So that's basically the proposal. I don't really want to discuss tie votes. I'm sure that Bruce, Commissioner Ansel, wants to discuss that. And we kind of think that would be rare. We're not afraid to discuss it, but I think that's open for discussion as far as the board members are concerned from District 4. And the other thing I'd like to say is if we couldn't agree today, if the 2 boards couldn't agree today, or the planning committee actually, sorry about that. If the planning committee doesn't agree today, that doesn't necessarily mean that the planning committee has to be dissolved. As Karen mentioned several times in the past couple months, time's running short. You're a little bit behind schedule, let's face it, and you have been for at least a month. But that doesn't mean you can't make it. I think you still can. But if you cannot finish this in time to get it on the deadline for the August primary ballot, that's not the end of the world. if you, rather than dissolve the planning committee, we suggest that you could pause for a month or two. You could take a time out, if you will, as we used to do with our kids. We put them in time out for a while so they can cool off. But all I'm saying is that's another alternative. You could pause the process and revisit in a couple months, each side regroup and figure out how sold are we on our own position, or should we regroup and get together again with the planning committee. So that's an option. I think that pretty much covers what they want me to convey on this. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them, but the board members can speak for themselves as well. So that's the proposal, 3-3 voting rule. And it'll work out. Basically, you know what we're trying to do, and that is to do it in a way that protects the minority. If you have a 5-member board versus a 3-member board, and you're all supposed to be one board, it really would be better to have equality. And I can go into details in history. We're not reinventing the wheel here. Other regional fire authorities have done this. We represent Valley Regional Fire Authority, the first RFA in the state. It's 3 cities, but it's not really that different. Auburn is much, much larger than Pacific and Algona, yet the governing board is actually 3, 3, and 3. We have a 9-member governing board there. The second RFA in the state was Centralia, called Riverside Fire Authority. And when we started that one, that was the second one. That client switched. They did kind of what you're doing. They started out with 3 from Centralia, the mayor and 2 city council members, and then 3 from Fire District 12, I think it was, Lewis 12. So they were equal, but they didn't want to stay that way. They went to 5 members at large eventually, but they started 3 and 3. And right now, one of our clients is a contract agency dealing with the Renton Regional Fire Authority. Renton is a bigger city, much bigger than the fire district they combined with in that RFA. And they have 3 and 3. Our client is a contract client, and they'd like to get into that RFA, but it's tricky because of the governance issue, actually, somewhat like this. Anyway, my point is that these equality boards are not unprecedented. You can probably, Karen and Rich Davis or Matt can probably give examples of other governance models where they're not equal. I won't gainsay that. That's the truth. But the fact is that what we're proposing is not that weird. It's not that unusual. Okay, so that's basically my presentation on behalf of the board. But as I said before, if any of the District 4 board members in particular think that I haven't covered it all, if I left something out of your position or your concerns, chime in now. Thank you.
Anyone have questions for Joe? Actually, I did have a question, but I wanted to see where y'all are first. Are there questions about what he's proposing?
I do, but if District 4 has any comments before I chime in, I'd like to hear them.
I have nothing.
Go ahead, Bruce.
So how do we exclude 2 of our elected officials?
You don't. Just because they don't have a vote doesn't mean they don't have any input. They're free in every way to comment, give their opinion, try to persuade the District 4, former District 4 board members to change their minds. They have tremendous participation abilities without voting.
So what I'm hearing you say is it's a 3 and 5 member board with 3 members voting from each jurisdiction.
Right. And that could change. You can change that at any time. And you could also rotate so that the 2 that aren't voting one month might be the people that are voting the next month. So there'd be a total freedom on District 21's part to decide which 3 vote. I mean, I wouldn't want to change it on every motion in the middle of a meeting, I don't think. But you could change it regularly so that everybody does get to participate frequently in the voting as well as the influencing.
And that's what was outlined in my proposal.
Right, right.
The only issue being the potential for a tiebreaker on an issue that might be of critical time-sensitive importance. Now, we can all say that'll never happen, but it could, and it would be weird to stalemate the chief and him running his department because somehow we had a personality glitch on the boards and they're digging their heels in and saying, you know, we don't want that collective bargaining agreement to go forward, or we do, and now we're stuck without a labor agreement moving forward. Or that's only one example I can think of, Chief. I don't know if you can, having done this for a while, something of importance. Maybe it's a bid process. Maybe it's you know, a time-sensitive issue that has to be addressed, and the board is deadlocked. How do we break that? And you can. I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
No, I understand your question, and we've discussed that a little bit too. It seems to me there's a negotiation process that can occur. When you say it's time sensitive, I assume you're sitting at the meeting right there, and there's a deadlock on an important issue that can't really be kicked down the road, so to speak. Put that in the rules, how you will actually break the tie. You had a proposal, I think, Bruce, that I saw at one point that said only if both of the other non-voting members want to go a certain way and they're unanimous, so to speak, is it binding to the tie break? Something like that. I mean, there needs to be some kind of procedure, obviously, in case it does happen. While I think it would be rare, as you said, it could happen, and it could happen on something important. But I think that's worth talking about. And I have to think that this RFA board, which is trying to move forward in 2022, I guess we're talking about, they want to move forward on an issue that they're going to be able to sit there and talk to each other about something like this and work it out, basically negotiate it right then and there. But, you know, putting in some language, I'm not averse to discussing that. And I think our board members in District 4 are also not averse to discussing ways to break the tie like you suggested. Maybe not exactly that way, but something like that.
Well, that's our suggestion. So the proposal that we have forwarded, which I don't know if you got a copy of that or not, but it sounds like you did, is how we would recommend we break that tie. And I say that with all due respect for the process. I would think in the past 10 years with District 21 running pretty much most of the decisions that we have been honest and upfront. I guess if it's just boils down to a purely trust issue that something bad's going to happen, I think we have 5 independent thinking people here, and they would choose to make the right decisions based on good arguments. And it's that 1 in a million tiebreaker. And I just think, why not address it now and get it over with, so we're not at that point and go like, oh, you know what, we forgot to talk about how we're going to break this tie. Is my proposal, our proposal that we have at our just morning meeting asked to move forward in its written form, egregious or unacceptable in any way, shape, or form? I'm kind of hearing you say no, but I guess I need to hear from the D4 board if they have angst over that. So I'm saying 3 and 3. We have 2 non-voting members. Those members can rotate, but would be identified prior to any beginning of any meeting. And that if, again, the 1 in a million chance there is a standoff, 3 and 3, that those 2 remaining non-voting members become voting members, but they both have to agree. obviously, if they split, where the issue dies and we start over or we are reconvene. But I think that says, holy cow, you've got to have 5 people in on this on those 1 in a million critical decision-making processes. Is there anything wrong with that idea?
I might add that in Robert's rules and usual parliamentary procedure, if something ends up with a tie vote and the tie can't be broken, what happens? Parliamentarians will probably tell you that the proposal fails. So we need to address this. And I think you're right, Bruce. I think that probably it's time to see what Dave and Harry and Mark think about this precise point about the tiebreak rule. And if they have anything to offer, you know where I stand as far as the law is concerned. It's a matter of agreement. There is no hard and fast rule, and the proposal that Bruce makes is not unreasonable. That's my position.
All right, I appreciate your legal opinion. Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate all your comments this morning so far. Before I kind of chime in on the proposal that Bruce has kind of outlined, I want to step back a little bit. We talked about the two groups potentially putting the chief in a hard position if it came to an agreement, and I agree with that. However, I want to remind the chief clearly that I think he understands where our board has been. We've supported him completely to the point, and we're very glad we did what we did to have the chief that we have sitting in his position. We fully do still support that chief, our chief. But I do want to remind the chief, we set aside and we brought to the table that we would step away from the table and allow District 21 to hire who they chose to hire. If you remember the ILA, it clearly stated both boards would have to approve the appointment to chief, for chief. Both boards were to go out for interviews and hire the most qualified applicant for the position. We understood that our chief wasn't probably the most qualified, but we had definitely made the right decision because we knew he was the right person for the job. And that's why District 20 or District 4's board stepped back and allowed the process to take place. And we didn't have to do that. There was nothing that could have held us to that. We did that because we believe in the person that's sitting in that seat right now. And I'm a little disappointed in how some of the negotiations went, because it has seemed very one-sided of how it's all going to be done. I think it went fast, but we just need to get beyond this. We're all better than this. Some history is probably stepped in the way, and I need to let it go. And I'll be the first to say I'm willing to let this go. We just need to move forward here. This is the most important issue. It's important to not only all of us sitting on this Zoom meeting today, but to every single one of the citizens of both of our districts. They've had quality service. That service isn't going to change. That service needs to continue and only improve. And that, I believe, really can only happen through the formation of this regional fire authority.
So Dave, I'm not sure I'm hearing, you are okay with the compromise that Bruce put on the table this morning?
I was having my Zoom meeting moment, my preach. Yes. I guess we got a lot to get done, Karen, just say it that way.
Sorry, I'm just trying to drive us to confirm.
I would like to hear my other two colleagues' thoughts first. So,
thank you.
I have a comment to make. I quite a few meetings ago, I emphasized that we ought to keep this in the KISS principle. We're dragging our feet on this. We're wasting time on this. How long is this gonna, once we agree, how long is it gonna last? It's not gonna last long. So this whole thing will be moot. The other thing is, in the past 10 years working with 21, How many times have we had to fight for a compromise or something? Not that many. Just like Joe said, it very rarely happens. And it has very rarely happened in our case. That's my 2 cents. The KISS principle. We need it.
So can you answer the question?
Yeah, I'm not.
As far as are you okay with my proposal or not?
I'm okay with it. I want to get going. I want to get past this.
Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, so just, if I could just narrow my comments to the tie-breaking principle. If and when there was ever a tie, I'm a firm believer in promoting healthy discussion, gathering additional input and opinions. If there was a tie, then maybe we just need to involve the union. If we don't have a citizen advisory group, well, we probably need one, and then we would involve them. We could always tweak the proposal. Whatever the motion is that we're hung up on, we continue to have a healthy debate, gather additional information, and see if that tie could be broken after that process. If it's not, as we all understand how organization and groups like this would function, then the proposal would not pass. So then we tweak it and we continue to work it so that we do have some sort of either consensus or majority to move it forward. You don't always have to agree unanimously to move forward. I mean, that's the way the process is designed. So I'm all about healthy debate, soliciting more information from outside groups that maybe aren't, at the table at that moment.
If I could.
But we're tied right now. What are you going to say? We need a decision on this topic. We're tied. What do we do?
There's Mark. I'm not sure I'm hearing. I heard clearly. Maybe it's just me. Where you are on the District 21 proposal for tie breaking.
I would not want to see the RFA fall apart over this, and I would do whatever we can or whatever I can to move it forward.
Does that mean if this was something that District 21 insisted on, that you were willing to support it?
Yes.
So, and I guess it's back to you, Dave.
I'm going to support both Harry and Mark. We're a board. We've always stuck together, our board, and just like your board. And if this can move us forward and that's what they feel is important to them, I don't believe that it is I really like Mark laid it out quite well, is that we should have a process. We should be able to resolve these issues. However, if this is a hang-up point, District 4 is going to hold our head high. We're going to go ahead and we will accept their proposal, and we'll move forward. And the rest needs to be put in the past.
Thank you. So it sounds like I'm hearing that the District 4 board is willing to accept the compromise that Bruce shared this morning that was previously communicated in writing to Dave. But I think my question is now for the attorneys, since this is obviously an important matter for the group, what would be your advice about how this agreement gets memorialized? We would need additional clarity in section 5 of the RFA plan to confirm that that's happening. Yes, it can all change, but I think that we would need a few more words here to confirm that this is the approach. And I would be nervous if we didn't have anything in writing.
Why don't we leave that to the attorneys? They can write it up. They can't really mix it up too much.
No, I agree. I just would like to confirm with Matt and Joe that you would agree that we should get some simple, we add a sentence to the RFA plan section 5 here that confirms this this approach that parties apparently have agreed to today.
We should memorialize it in writing for sure. I'm not certain right now that you need to change the plan in any way, because what we're really discussing is voting rules and bylaws, procedures for the operation of the RFA board, not the structure of the board or the composition of the board, but the way it operates. So we could start drafting the bylaws. We could start drafting procedural rules, or we could simply put this one procedural rule in place in a document to be amended later. That would be the full bylaws. You see what I'm saying? I think you could do it that way rather than try to completely write the bylaws now.
Well, it seems like you could write probably 2 sentences that would confirm that there were 3 votes on either side, and that the other 2 folks from District 21 were allowed to participate in all deliberations and would serve as a tiebreaker in the event of a 3-3 vote. That seems like it's a short amount of words. I agree that they may want some bylaws later, but those bylaws would have to be adopted by the new board. And I would like to make sure that we're darn clear going into that very first board meeting, who's got what votes. And that is not that, we had written this with the assumption that it was going to be 1 person, 1 vote, but that assumption is not terribly clear. And now we are changing that. And I think we should confirm. I think that I would feel better that folks were going to get what they thought they agreed to on day 1 if we just added a couple of sentences to write up what you all have discussed here today.
And Karen, if I can jump in, I'm familiar with these RFA plans too, and when there are non-voting members of the board, even if that's going to be rotating, that's usually memorialized in the RFA plan. That's what goes to the voters so that they understand how this is going to be governed, and to leave that for another day or another document would concern me.
So Joe, if you don't have objections to trying to work up 1 or 2 sentences, you and Matt could do that, and we could drop it in the draft that the group next sees.
Right. It wouldn't be difficult to put it in probably under the interim governing board.
Yep.
After 2.1.1 and 2.1.2, we could craft a couple sentences based upon Bruce's proposal and drop it in right there before number 3.
I think that would be the exact right spot. Agreed. Okay, so committee members, perhaps we should take a vote of the 6 of you who are voting today here, that you are in support of the concept that the interim governing board will be comprised of, I'll just say this again, and we'll look for a motion and a second and all in favor type of a thing, if that is okay, just to make sure we get this in the record. So it would be all seating members of both boards will be members of the RFA board from and after October 1st, unless any of them resign their positions. And that there will be 3 votes on the District 21 side and 3 votes on the District 4 side. And that the 4th and 5th members of the District 21 board will be non-voting members of the board, except in cases where there is a 3-3 tie on an issue, and then those 2 members may vote, and the outcome of their votes would determine whether the issue was passed. Is that basically it? It'll be said more eloquently by the lawyers, but that's everybody understand and everybody getting where we are just in terms of this motion. Okay, can somebody say motion and second? Thank you, Bruce. Is there a second?
Second.
Second it. Oh,
Thank you,
go ahead,
Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion passes unanimously. We will work on language to stick in at section 5A 2.2 to that effect. Thank you very much. All right, that I think gets us back to agenda item 5, the additional RFA draft plan issues. So I think if folks want to look in their packets, we are at page 11 of the draft plan. It's also about page 14 of your packets. It starts with section 6, funding and finance. And my hope is that we can just sort of skim through, identify if there are any, we have a couple decision points to confirm, and if there's anything that's super problematic, we need to flag that. And we're prepared to do more discussion on it as necessary. So folks are able to, are you all at that point of the packet, section 6 of the draft plan? Thank you, Mark. Guys ready to go?
I am. I have to step out just for a minute, but I am, and I'll be listening.
Okay, the first issue right here. Okay, interim finances, obviously all the revenue that both agencies collect for the balance of this year, assuming the voters approve the creation of the RFA, would be used to support the operations of the RFA from October 1st through December 21st. And basically all the funds you have on hand would come over to the RFA, maybe except for a small reserve for outstanding bills. That's in section 1. In section 2, we need to confirm what the proposed starting levy rate would be. And based on your consensus at the February 25 workshop, there was baseline and baseline plus funding, which with Mr. Cushman's help, we saw how that translated with adequate reserve funding and working capital to suggest a $1.45 starting rate levy. And so that's the first decision point here today, is where are folks on that? There's additional materials in your packet back at page 24, 5, 6, and 7, which outline the differences in what you could acquire in terms of the staffing support and the vehicle replacements if you were at $1.40 versus $1.45. And so that was trying to make it really clear to folks what you could get at one level versus the other. If there are folks ready to make a motion on the starting levy rate, or do you have questions that we should try to answer first?
No questions here.
Thank you, Harry.
We do. I would remind everybody, we got Bill Cushman on the line. So if you've got the minutia questions, the brains of the finance operation are here to.
Yes.
Didn't he run a $1.40 for us as well?
Yes, sir. It's on page, if you go to page 25 of your board packet, you'll see a side-by-side comparison of $1.45 versus $1.40. And what
page is that?
25.
25. The last 3 pages of the packet.
Okay.
That shows you the difference in what you can and cannot get at $1.40 versus $1.45.
Okay, I got it.
So for discussion purposes, I'd like to make a motion that we set the starting levy rate at $1.45.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Crawford.
So now we can have discussion.
Is there any discussion?
You know, I know the fact that we need the starting levy rate of $1.45. I saw the facts. But I'm also thinking about our customers, when they look at that and they compare it to what they're paying now. I'm trying to offset people voting against the RFA. That's my big thing. I got a call the other day for one of our citizens, and she lives in one of the wealthier parts of our district. And she is all for this RFA, and she said her neighbors are as well. But I don't want to run them off by a high number. So that's just something to consider.
I agree with you, Harry. I think we've anguished over this. And I don't want to run a levy that is going to fail, but if I ask the chief and I ask myself, what would we do if this levy or if this RFA proposal fails because of the levy rate? How would we come back to the public? And the only good answer I have is we need $1.45. And so we would literally have to say thank you very much, but if we don't set this at $1.45, we aren't going to survive long-term, right? I just feel like, okay, we set it low, but now in 2 years, we've got to come back to them and say, well, you know what, we kind of didn't set it high enough, so we've got to ask for more. And this doesn't even address our long-term capital needs, station location, station remodel, station upgrades, etc. This is just operational money and good fiduciary planning, which, I mean, I'm a commissioner. I have to be somewhat guilty for saying, why did we wait so long for a levy lid lift? All of us who are sitting commissioners should ask ourselves that question: is how did we get so far behind the 8 ball? And part of that was a recession, part of that was rotating chiefs, part of that was maybe just inattention, part of that was looking at our communities and saying, can they actually afford that? And part of it was asking our employees to take subpar wages, which resulted in people leaving our jurisdiction to go work for more affluent departments that paid a better wage. And so we were having trouble just attracting people to work here, or we would hire them, and as soon as they got trained up, they would be out the door for the better paying job. So it's a reality of running a professional fire department. And I guess I would like to hear from Heather as well, because we kind of posed this question to her about what if you said it here or there, and from a marketing standpoint, what is your experience with these issues in front of the public?
So as we discussed before, it's a heavy lift. You're going from whatever it is now, and it's lower in District 4 than 21, but whether you ask them for, we mentioned once $1.38 and $1.40 and $1.45, the problem is people are either going to be for or against a tax increase. The job is to sell the financial future of this better organization with one level of government removed. And so it's no heavier of a lift at $1.45 than it is at $1.40. And if $1.45 gets you everything you need, that's what you're asking all your energy into defending the one number you come forward with. The defending also, it's critically important that everybody's firmly on board. I hear you, Commissioner Andrews. I understand where you're coming from. We need to get everybody unanimous, because you end up shooting yourselves in your own feet if, 4 or 5 of you think it's great and 2 or 3 don't. So it's important that everyone be comfortable, even if this would not be their first choice. It's wonderful that you guys have years of thrifty management to brag about. And, the piper's here now, and the piper needs to be paid. And my recommendation is the $1.45, having looked at Mr. Cushman's work. It funds everything your chief is recommending. It doesn't look like a fluffy deal to me. So if you're going to do a heavy lift, I strongly recommend you lift for what you need.
And I feel like we could tell the citizens responsibly both the history of how we got here and show them that the work has been done, that this is, with the exception of large buildings, capital facilities, this covers everything that the district is going to foresees needing in the next 7 years. And
including apparatus, yes.
And that's what I was going to say, a responsible, staggered apparatus replacement program, something we've never done before. Maintaining the facilities that we have, not adding to things, improving a level of service that can be replicated in other parts of the district at a future date. With this peak hours transport unit, I think that's something that we could, if the need be, this is setting up a good model for doing it again later, and we'll have a track record. We're behind. We recognize that. The good piece is we're not in debt. We didn't vote ourselves in debt to fund our operation. I think it's really important to look at $1.40, or you look at the $1.40 versus $1.45. At $1.40, we're going to borrow from our reserves to fund the operation the last couple of years. And that makes me a little nervous. you know, it would be nice to have a fully funded operation and build responsible reserves that are defensible and explainable to the public. We have nothing to hide. We're not looking for Taj Mahals. We're not looking for parade rigs. We're looking for workhorse fire engines for our, and ambulances for our employees that are going out there and doing the good work that they do every day. We need to keep them safe. We need to keep them equipped. And this is a plan. It's a vetted plan, vetted by a third-party person in Mr. Cushman, who's got years of experience in building successful finances for, South County, Snow One, whatever agency you want to call it. And we can say, look, this wasn't us on a napkin. This is a subject matter expert from outside of our agency, looking at every facet of our past financial history and future financial history, and doing the due diligence to look at where are we going. He looked at trends, he's looked at everything and said, this is the plan, and this fully funds the plan. And it sets a timetable for us coming back to the voters so we don't get in this pickle again, which is not something we did before. It was just, oh, we need more money, we should go ask for some. And this is a plan.
I agree with everything that's been said about this, and I can vote for $1.45. Where I'm coming from is the fact that the difference between what our voters are paying now against $1.45 is going to raise havoc with their vote. And we'll just let the election make the decision.
Commissioner Andrews, I agree. And as one of the people that's going to have to go out there and explain to him what, and I hope they ask me the hard questions, and I can't be anything but transparent and honest with them about how we got there and where we're going. I too hope that they vote for this. That's obviously we're hoping to have a successful plan here, or a successful outcome. But I share your concern. It looks like a lot of money, and it's, it is a big lift, but I stand by my statement that I made to Commissioner Ansel and to Karen Reed that, what's plan B if this thing doesn't pass? Well, nothing's more infuriating to me when I'll pick on the schools. They run a $20 million or $45 million bond, and it fails, and then they come back with a $25 million bond and say, well, we can do it for this. We've crunched the numbers. It's going to take $1.45. If we don't pass it at $1.45 in August, that means that I need to do more public engagement. We need to figure out a different way to communicate to the voter why this is important and why it affects them and why we need their support. That's where we're at today.
Could I chime in on this, Karen?
Of course.
And addressing Commissioner Andrews' concern and what Jason just said, the firm of Fawcett and Lund, in teamwork with Karen Reed, actually did a great job in enlightening the public in a very transparent way of what the real heavy lift is. And if you do a good campaign like we did in Graham on that benefit charge that she mentioned, you can actually get more people behind your fire department than you had before. But you have to do it in a very thorough, it's not cheap, it's expensive, yes, but it's money well spent to run that campaign in accordance with all public disclosure laws, of course, but you run that campaign legally with your consultants, and you can actually improve the way your voters think about your fire department. So I think that's a big piece of this that addresses Commissioner Andrews' concern.
Thank you, Joe. Is there any more discussion on this?
No, I'm prepared to vote for that, but I'm giving you the issue of the fact that our voters are paying tremendously less than $1.45 right now, and they're not stupid. They can add it all up, and I'm just afraid they will vote against it, and that's all I'm saying on that. But I'll vote for it. It seems to be the consensus.
Mark has a comment, I think.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. So I just wanted to go back briefly to that last motion that we just passed on governance. That was a huge move on District 21, and I just want to say thank you. You know, that it was a big move, and I think being able to openly discuss that and then resolve it, just personally, I just wanted to recognize that and thank you, at least from where I'm sitting. On the, I'm gonna definitely support the 145, and anybody that's watching or listening, you know, I'm late to the show, but just be assured that I've read all the information, I've watched the presentations. So I do feel like I can make a, you know, pass the straight face test when I'm pitching that, that I'm convinced, you know, I'm taxing myself, and I'm going to vote for it as much as I, you know, hate taxes as much as anybody else, but I believe in it. I believe in the experts, you know, the chief, the consultants that have put this together. So yeah, I can definitely get behind it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And I'll just go ahead and chime in right now as well and make it short and sweet. I know that's hard to believe, but I'm going to concur with Mark on both of his comments. I ditto to what he said. I think we all just proved a big point. We worked through something. We worked it out. Hopefully we're all still friends and we continue forward. And I appreciate Commissioner Ansel bringing that to the table. We'd already all actually talked about it and knew that was probably a good option. And as far as what Mark said on the $1.45, I couldn't have said it any better. So you know where I stand.
John Crawford has not weighed in here on this $1.45.
He's sitting in the dark.
Well, I'm totally in support for the $1.45. Harry, I don't know if you know or not, but South Wackham's at $1.45. District 19 is going to be trying to move their tax levy. It's county-wide that everybody's going to be going for more money. But I think it's an easy sell to the voters once we tell them what they're getting for their $1.45. So I'm totally in support of where we're going here.
John, would you agree? I think that the COVID really opened our eyes to where we need to be, you know, and where we weren't at, as well as many districts in the county. I think we know that we need to be better prepared, and it's going to take the money to do that.
Yeah, we got to put boots on the floors and fire trucks on the road. So it costs a little bit of money to do operations. So that's where we're at, right?
You got it. Thanks.
Scott.
I'm in agreement with the $1.45. I mean, we've been I just think we should do it, you know.
So shall we are ready to take a vote on this one, or is there further discussion?
No, just one last comment. Mr. Cushman's here, and he has enlightened us so well. I know that from my time on the board, I've wanted the answer to this question: is how much does it cost to truly run an organization? And we either haven't had the time or resources to put that together, and for that I have to take some responsibility. But to have him come in with his wonderful program and be able to plug these numbers in has just been super enlightening for myself and our board, and I can't say enough for how much we appreciate the work that he's put together, not just for us on this, but he had to develop this program and use it for a lot of other districts, and had he not done that, we'd all kind of be in the dark right now. So I just wanted to go on record thanking him for all his talents.
Thank you, Chairman Ansel. Folks ready to vote on this? The motion has been moved and seconded. Is there maybe all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Mark, you're asking for a 3-minute break. We're welcome to have a 3-minute break if folks need one. I'm happy to accommodate that. And then would folks like to do that? And then we'll come back and see how much further we can get through this plan.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, 3 minutes, folks, and we'll reconvene here.
You're gonna